Hello, Craig. How you doing?
Hey, buddy. Hey, guys. Welcome to the Grumpy Dungeon Masters, where everything's made up and points don't matter because everything's made up.
Well, I'm impressed that
Did I
you
remembered
pulled
an intro at all?
that you remembered an intro at all. You forgot to say your name in
I
it.
haven't gotten that far yet. I was waiting for
Um,
you to respond.
I do like the fact that you pulled in whose line is it anyway reference.
Oh, of
Always,
course.
always the
Yes.
best. But
Yes.
which one? There's three. Of
Uh,
course.
I personally loved the Drew Carey one, but honestly, Aisha Taylor is wonderful, and the British one, which was the OG one.
Right? I really honestly can't choose between the three
Yeah,
because mostly
I'll watch any of them.
the funny part is that the cast really doesn't change. There's always
Not much, yeah.
the rotating two to four
Okay.
guys. Ryan Stiles and Colin Marketing always on there.
Yeah.
Um, the host changes, and the British guy never actually got up there and did anything with them.
Yeah.
But Drew Carey did, and Aisha Tyler gets up there and does stuff sometimes too.
Yep. Oh, so
And
by the
she's
way, guys, I'm Grumpy Dungeon Master Jay, and you're
a Drew Carey fan.
obviously, and also referred to as Grumpy Dungeon Master Chris.
Topher.
Yes, Chris. So anyway, yeah, Drew Carey was awesome. I love that
Yeah.
show.
I like him in The Price is Right too. I think he does a good job in there.
I've never seen him on The Price is Right.
It's hard. It's hard to replace Bob. He does a great job.
Bob Barker was the last one I saw on Price is Right, and that
Yeah.
was a long time ago.
He was also the first one we saw because we're both not that old.
That is correct. He's the only one I've ever seen on The Price is Right.
Yeah. Drew's just making that cash cow money now. It's
Can you blame the guy? I mean, he's like Leno. He's made so much money just from doing these kind of things.
yeah. Speaking of, did you ever see? And this is not D&D related, unfortunately, but did you ever see the Who's Line? Is it anyways? Crew with Drew Carey when they went around and did like a little tour and did house shows.
I have not.
Okay, it's recorded. They have a bunch of them recorded. You can find them. I have no idea what the name is, but essentially, it's them all uncut
Yeah.
as well. So you get all the straight dirty stuff that Ryan Stiles does. You get it's very not for kids, where the television show was for kids. So that's kind of it's really good. If I find it, I'll let you know. But it's out there someplace. So definitely check
Yeah.
it out.
I'll start looking around YouTube to see if I can find it because I would definitely enjoy watching that.
Oh yeah, it was good. And there's just like three or
Yeah.
four of them out there. You can
I
find.
have seen a number of episodes that were uncut.
Yeah.
Yeah, because those you can find those on YouTube where it's basically all the outtakes of it,
Yeah,
or
but the
the
difference with this one is you can clearly tell they're under the influence of alcohol for most of them.
oh even better. Oh, I bet Colin gets lit.
So, anyways, this is going to be a long episode. I
Is it?
have,
Okay.
yes, we may go over an hour, but
Okay.
that'll
Well,
be okay.
I am gonna give super short answers to everything you ask to cut
So,
down on time.
I'm going to start off. I'm going to start off with something, and you can start off with something. And I'm going to start off with this. I was at Synergy Gamers today, my local store here in Charleston, um, and I wanted to stop by and talk to the owner because they're actually expanding their store. They're opening up a whole new store.
Okay, I was about to say expanding the store they're in would be kind of hard. It's a relatively large store already.
Yeah. Well, they wanted to get like the place next to it. And there was a chance, but they missed out. And they were going to expand it more. But now they're getting another store in the same like little mini mall parking
Oh,
lot.
okay, that'll be odd. So two
Okay.
stores but not touching.
Two stores not touching. The main store, the store that you visited when you came down here, is going to basically expand their Zippy Turtle expansion, the Lizards of the Coast expansion. They're going to expand that a little bit. And they're also going to double down and refocus that store for competitive card game tournaments.
Okay.
Okay. So they're going to double down on the card stuff. The other store is where they're going to ship over all the tabletop.
Okay.
So D&D, Warhammer, what have you. And it's a smaller store, but the size of their original store.
Yeah.
But they're setting it up to have possibly a private room and then a bunch of tables people can play at. And the best
Okay.
part is that, he's like, hey, the door's unlocked. Go over there and look at it. He had to go entertain some guests that were in from Chicago. And, I couldn't really talk to him for that long. And he's like, you just go over there, look at the space, let me know what you think. And he really wants to get my input on how to fill out the store and redesign it.
Okay.
So that's great. So I go over there, I open the door, I walk inside, and there's already a table of people playing Dungeons and Dragons in that store.
And that's not even open for business yet.
Not even over business yet. So, to be fair, Sundays is the Pokemon League thing that they do,
Uh-huh.
and the main store was packed, and I mean every seat taken, standing room only, hardly any standing room
I
of
understand this. Yes.
of parents and kids playing Pokemon.
So
So
very, very quickly, yesterday I went to play Magic. Normally I play on Fridays. We played D&D this Friday, so we did Magic on Saturday. And we decided, since we're a person short, let's just go to the local card shop. The local card shop is tiny. They did just
yeah,
expand, so now it's a little bigger than tiny, thus still very small. And we go in there, and every single seat in that place, except for one little 3-person table, is packed with parents and children playing freaking Pokemon.
it was insane. The amount of money they made off of selling Pokemon cards today
How is
alone
that
was
game still
insane.
around? How is it not dead?
It's super popular.
I know, and I don't get it. I don't get it.
Also, he told me that all the new the new Magic the Gathering set came out. A couple new products came out. They've sold out of most of everything that they have, which is really impressive because I've heard nothing but negative stuff about the extra products. And the new Commander set that they have
Not
for
good.
the Cyberpunk Ninjas,
Not
the
good.
Neon Dynasty Kamigawa. Actually, the Commander deck has a misprint where
Oh.
instead of having a rare land and a planeswalker
Oh
card,
yeah, yeah. You told me. I actually
they
saw
have
this. Yeah.
two lands in it. So it makes the deck unplayable.
Yes. Out of the box, it is unplayable because you can have basic lands. You can have two of the same basic land, but it's a double land basically, a dual
Yeah.
colored. So
But yeah, he said people still bought it. They know it and they still bought it. But anyway, so I go to their expansion. They had the name up there, but I'm not sure if that's the name they're sticking with. So I'll kind of keep that um, when I get the actual name is. I pitched him the name of Golden Dragon because there's another gaming store in the area called Green Dragon, and I say you
yeah,
should make this store the Golden Dragon.
I would not name it the Golden Dragon because it sounds like a Chinese restaurant.
Well, luckily there's a Chinese restaurant right next to this new expansion.
Okay, what is it called?
Like number one China, like everything other
Oh,
Chinese
okay.
restaurant.
No, yeah, do not name it the Golden Dragon. That's my input.
Yeah, they're not going with my input. My
Okay.
input when naming is terrible.
Yes,
You know.
obviously.
So I get in there and there's a group playing. One of my old players from my home table games was there playing. A couple of Venture League people were there, and they were just playing and whatnot. I wasn't intervening or anything. I wasn't even pitching GDM or anything like that.
Mhm.
So I go through and I kind of look at the building, take some pictures, and whatnot, and get some ideas in my head. And the player that was at my table kind of called me over, and I stopped and talked with him. The DM was doing a one-on-one with a player there. He asked me how the campaign was going with the Al campaign, and told him things are going good, and we just chit chatted for a little bit. And then things kind of got up. The DM kind of finished. We made some jokes, blah blah blah, and I was leaving. And I was leaving. I heard one of the players said, "Okay, so either the person that's causing these problems is a demon shark lord or Jubilex." And I
Ah!
stopped dead in my tracks, turn around, and like they all kind of like looked at me too, because like I was pushing the door open at the time, and they all kind of like look at me. I look at them and it's like, "Did you say Jubilex?" And they were
My
like,
God.
"Yeah, we think it's the big bad for this campaign." I was like, "Are you serious?" And the DM kind of looks at me and he's like, "Yeah." I was like, I just had a thing where I've never heard of Jubilex. I know he's just a monster stat block, and they made that amazing mini for him, and nobody that I know of plays with Jubilex, and just out of the woodwork, everyone's crawling out like, oh, I play with Jubilex. He's the main bad for my campaign. Like, another group. What am I missing with Jubilex? Did I not get a memo that
Yeah,
Jubilex is the main big bad for some reason?
you missed the 2022 memo of slimes and oozes are the big bad guys this year. Like that. That's what it was.
I must.
Uh,
I must have.
yeah, you definitely missed the memo on that.
Uh, so
And
yeah, there's
I find that so freaking hilarious because we had that long discussion about it. And your rant on it was nobody uses Jubilex. He's just a thing. And then I'm like, but I've played in a campaign where we could have fought Jubilex, and I love Jubilex. I love the idea of Jubilex. And then was it one of your other players or another
yeah.
DM's like, yeah, I'm running a campaign where he's the big bad guy. And
Yep.
then and here it is again, another person. Yeah, he's the
Another
big bad
one.
guy.
It was freaking insane. So I just blew my mind. I was almost so flabbergasted. I almost went over to buy the mini in the store and bring it back. I'm like, here, just done. That's how I'm getting my karma back for insulting Jubilex. Please, oh God of oozes, please don't devour me.
Yes, yes. Oh, that's so
I
good.
I I did as I walked out. I said, "You all better be careful though, because if this is my campaign, Jubilex would kill that demon shark lord and then start attacking you with its basically shark jaws now." And the DM, like his eyes lit up, and one of the players goes, "Oh no, you gave him an idea."
Yeah, yeah.
And then I was like, "Bye,
Bye.
enjoy that."
Enjoy the Shark Lord Jubilex.
He goes, "Dissolve, dissolve, and nom nom."
Yep.
Speaking of nom noms, I wanted to get my wife to watch Peacemaker, and
Mhm.
I asked her if she saw the new
I thought she watched it
Suicide
all with
Squad.
you.
No, she didn't. But I asked her if she watched Suicide Squad. She says, no, I hadn't had a chance to. I was like, well, I can't watch Peacemaker then. And then we watch it, and she loves King Shark, Nanawe.
Oh
It's
yeah.
just the best.
Yeah. Everything I see King Shark in, it's the best. He was the best thing in Suicide Squad, and Suicide Squad was really good. The second one,
Yeah.
and he was the best thing in the Harley Quinn cartoon, and
And
that
that's the
all and Harley
problem I
Quinn
have.
was fantastic.
And that's the problem I have now, too, is I don't know who's the better King Shark, Sylvester Stallone or Ron Funches.
Oh no, it's Ron Funches, man. Sylvester Stallone did a great job, but he had it was very limited, and he only got to say a few lines here and there, which were wonderful, but very limited. But Ron
Bird.
Funches, he just he just runs away with it.
All right, that's my first topic. What's yours?
Oh, that was a short topic. You're like, oh, I've got time sensitive material, and
Well, yeah,
like,
we're getting to that. Don't worry.
so I know you've talked with me at least about the Call of the Netherdeep thing
Uh huh.
briefly. Uh, is that one of your topics that you wanted to talk about?
Nope.
Okay, well, good because I'm not really talking about it. Uh, they released the NPC Dermot Werder. He's a tier 1 lawful good goblin, which we've gone over a million times, so I'm not going to go over his alignment, goblins and lawful good, whatever. But a while back, we had a discussion about some of the changes to stat blocks for monsters, NPCs, and such, and how it's going to affect counterspell because
Yeah.
they were sort of removing or changing spells to an extent and just giving a lot of NPCs and monsters just straight up abilities that mimic spells.
Yeah.
With him and his stat block, one of the things he gets is Searing Wrath. This is the first one that I've seen of the sort of new stat block abilities. And we were very concerned, or at least I was, that Counterspell was going to sort of be worthless with some of the changes. And it might still be, I haven't seen a lot on it, but his Searing Wrath ability actually does read as a ranged spell attack. So
Okay.
the fact that they put the word spell in there, yeah, that's good. That means that Counterspell will work on it, at least in my opinion as a dungeon master.
Okay.
I mean, that's pretty much the discussion. It's that
Well, I mean, So it's a spell-like ability, right?
Well, it does. No, it's an action. His action is Searing Wrath, range spell attack, +5 to hit, range 60, deals 2d8 radiant damage, and the target is blinded until the end of its next turn, which is what's the actual spell that does that effect? I can't remember it. The cleric spell.
Um,
Yeah, I don't have the books here in front of me, and I don't really play clerics. But there's a low level cleric spell that literally does radiant damage and blinds the target with an attack roll, and that's all this is. But rather than making it the spell, they've just made it an action and called it Searing Wrath.
yeah.
But because it does say ranged spell attack, at least in my estimation, in my opinion, as a dungeon master, I would make it possible to counterspell that.
I'm trying to find the stats they released because I knew I saw the pictures of it here.
Well, I'll send you here. I'll send you.
I got it. I got it. I got
Okay.
it. Searing Wrath range spell attack.
Yep.
And counterspell says you attempt to interrupt a creature possibly casting a spell. Let's go to Google and do what I do every day for my job. Counterspell. Counters spell attacks and a 5e.
Yeah, I guess I should have pulled up the wording of counterspell. I didn't think to do that since we all know what counterspell does.
Yeah.
It's a reaction that counters a spell.
Yes, you can counterspell a counterspell. That's been here for the end of time.
Yep.
I
don't know what are you trying to find? Like, what are you looking for?
I don't know if you can counterspell a spell attack.
If it says spell attack, and this is my opinion, and know
Yeah.
how I'm hardcore kind of when it comes to being a stickler on the rules of stuff like this, but it says spell attack. If this was just a ranged attack that dealt 2d8 ram damage and blinded the target, I would not allow it to be counterspelled. But it has the word spell in that reading.
Right.
There's nothing else in the game that counts or that with spell in that doesn't count as a spell.
Because I'm pretty sure you can't counterspell a spell-like ability.
Well, they don't have spell-like abilities in this.
He doesn't have a spell-like
edition.
ability. He has the actual spell attack. I think you can with that spell attack.
I'm positive you can. They wrote it that way specifically for that reason. It's pissing me off. I can't remember the damn name of the spell.
So with Green Flame Blade, as melee attack mod or spell attack mod, and it has the spell casting modifier is used for a spell attack, as in Ray of Frost. No spell attack in Green Flame Blade. So maybe that's where you could draw the line when it comes up, is whether or not you're adding your spell casting ability modifier to the ability, or if you're adding your melee ability.
Yeah, which if it's a spell attack, it's going to be adding his spell casting modifier.
So if I look at,
he has a prof of 2, he has a wisdom of +3, it's +5 to hit.
Well, that's hard because his strength is the exact same thing.
I guess it is. Yes.
Yeah.
What the hell kind of a goblin has 16 strength? Come on.
Oh, but he looks so cute. Why does he have a charisma of 10? So he actually has spell casting, which he has, guidance, light, spare the dying, bless, and cure wounds.
Yes.
Counter spell, ranged spell, attack.
I still don't know what you're looking for.
I know there's a solid answer here. Found it. Counterspell foils spells. A monk's Radiant Sunbolt isn't a spell, so counterspell has no effect. And that's the same thing as this, because it's a ranged spell attack.
What does the Radiant Sunbolt read? Do you use a spell attack?
I'm getting there.
Because if it does, then I would.
There. Radiant Sunbolt is a bonus action. Radiant Sunbolt. Starting when you use a tradition at 3rd level, you can hurl searing bolts of magical radiance. You get a new attack option that you use with the attack action. The spell attack is a ranged spell attack with a range of 30 feet. You are proficient in it. You add your dexterity modifier to its attack and damage rolls. As the damage is radiant and its damage is a d4. The die changes as you gain monk's level, shown in the martial arts column on the monk table.
So it says
So,
you make a ranged spell attack. Where specifically did you read that you can't counterspell these?
oh, that's Jeremy Crawford
Oh,
clarifying
okay. Well,
the
good.
question.
Then I'm ignoring it.
So, from the rule guy who wrote the rules to D&D,
Yeah, who's wrong half the time?
I mean, it's either a weapon attack or a spell attack, and you can't counter a ranged spell attack.
Okay, so this actually will bring up a much longer or better discussion. At least I would wholly disagree. I think if it has the word spell in it, it's a spell.
I
Period.
think that goes down to my point either. If you're adding, because ranged sunbolt for the monk, you're adding in your dexterity modifier for that spell attack, which makes sense. That's not your spell casting modifier. If you're using your spell casting modifier, then I think you're casting a spell more hard.
Okay, yeah, that I follow that. And in this
Yeah.
case, I obviously that NPC would be using it as wisdom based.
Or as strength based. Who knows?
I can't imagine you're using strength based to cast Searing Wrath. It
I
doesn't
mean,
make sense.
but if they're moving those abilities up into ranged spell attacks, then maybe they are.
I, I mean, I
So,
get what uses strength. That's a thrown or ranged attack in 5e. Does
crossbows, any
mm,
weapon?
you mean the no crossbow? I'm pretty certain is dexterity based.
No.
Uh,
Crossbows use strength. Strength.
now we're gonna
Crossbow.
now we have to find out. Ranged weapons, bows, crossbows, darts use dexterity.
Okay. Then if you're throwing just an object like a two-handed sword.
Yeah, well, that's. I would honestly, I'd still make that probably. I'd make it dex.
Why would it be dex? You're basically just hucking 20
Well,
pounds of steel as far and as fast as you
well,
can.
no, melee weapons that have the thrown property only use strength. Hand
Yeah.
axe, javelin, light hammer, spear, and trident. A sword does not. So
It's an improvised throwing weapon, technically, I think.
yeah. So thrown weapons. I don't think this guy is throwing a searing wrath anywhere.
I mean, that's what you got to figure out, I think, and that's what it all comes down to, whether or not it's a
Which
spell that you can
yeah,
counter spell
which
or
is
not.
which is now complicating shit and going into the realm of third edition where everything was more complicated. Why
I
do they
mean,
have to do this, man? Just get rid of fucking Searing Wrath and give him the actual spell.
because they're trying to move away from that.
I know, which I didn't agree with it when they started doing it, and I still don't because now it's making shit even harder to tell what's a spell and what can be countered.
Well, I mean, it's pretty obviously he says you don't counter spell range spell attacks.
Yep. Well, at the same time, I still
You
disagree.
you you are allowed to disagree. It is your table, and you can modify the rules. Just make sure your players are aware that you
Oh
will be
my!
counterspelling
Yeah.
range spell attacks.
I mean,
Because
none of my players. Maybe the monk could have something like that, but most of them don't. I can't think of any other abilities that are fucking ranged spell attacks that aren't spells. I'm sure there's a couple, since
I
apparently
mean,
monks have it.
because you're not allowing silvery barbs at the table, you kind of almost have to make that concession to that.
Yeah.
Because silvery barbs is really needed from here on out.
Yeah, well, they brought it in to, I guess to deal with shit that they've added, which is everything worked fine. They didn't need to do any of this. It's anyway. I'm old, I'm cranky, and I hate when they start changing stuff for the sake of changing stuff. Change it
Yeah.
if there's a reason, but if there isn't,
Well,
don't.
they have a reason, and I think a lot of that reason is because I'm really hoping they go to a 6th edition. That's just very backwards compatible with 5, and like all these changes would be tidied up into 6th edition.
If this is going to be sixth edition, good luck to them.
But I think this more like you guys are saying is going to be a 5.5 in the future, and that is going to basically be part of the 5.5 revamp. I mean, this happened with 4th edition too. Like 4th edition core is very different than 4th edition essentials, which kind of try to bring back this whole idea of like how 5th edition works. It was kind of almost a very bad beta version. Like if 4E essentials would have been 5th edition, it would have been really bad. But just one quick side note. I was talking to a player after Adventures League, and they they were telling us about magic items, and I want to bring this up as a topic, but we're just so overloaded with topics today, and I can't really bring it up. And it was basically like they're both her and another player are playing the campaigns, or like they have so many magic items they don't know what to do with, and things are just weird.
Sure.
And she said like it's happening in her main campaign where she's a Gloomstalker that has like the Bow of Shadow, which lets her crit for free from the shadows or something dumb like that.
Ouch.
Like it was really insane. But then she said, and then but then I started another campaign, and she does listen to the podcast, so don't say who this is. But she said that she's level 2, and her DM gave her the spell book of it's Igwilv. That's how you pronounce it.
Yeah. Igwilv.
Igwilv. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I had the spell book at Igwilv. I was like, okay, do you know who that is? And she goes, no. I was like, do you want to know? She's like, no, I want it to be a surprise. I'm like,
yeah, we'll not spoiler that for you.
That's gonna be a big surprise. Why would you give that to a level 2 character?
How new is the Dungeon Master?
I don't believe too new, but she can already summon a fiend with it.
No. How the Dungeon Master, the person running the game, how new are they?
I don't think they're that new.
Okay.
But what I'm saying is they already gave her the ability to summon a fiend.
Sure. Yeah. I have played in campaigns like that before a long time ago, and that is honestly the kind of things that new Dungeon Masters have a tendency to do. You know, handing out legendary artifacts, things like that, just because I don't know specifics of why. You know, it just sounds cool to the newer Dungeon Master. You know, if they don't, you can do that. But if you're going to hand out stuff like that, you have to build the campaign around it, and you have to be able to. You have to really be able to challenge the players, because when you start handing them really powerful stuff, it can ruin a campaign very quick. As an example, when Ravenloft,
I didn't want to jump too deep into this because it leads into my next topic.
Well, let me go through this real quick. It's not that long. When Ravenloft got released in 5th edition, I jumped into a campaign. I started off at the very beginning, level 1. I played 3 game sessions or so, and I missed 2 game sessions. And everything ran relatively smooth. The DM hadn't run anything in years, so it was his first time back. And I missed 2 game sessions. I come back, and when I get back, one of the players, I think maybe 2 of the PCs were werewolves, and one of the was like a vampire. And immediately I'm handed a magic staff that just gives me like god tier abilities. It very quickly ruined that campaign, which sort of fell apart when there was no real challenge to anything. Yeah, because the DM didn't sort of follow the rules that were in the Ravenloft setting. He just sort of started handing out superpowers willy nilly. You can do a superpowered game, but you gotta really kind of control it and challenge players if you do that.
Yeah, and that's the shit you guys gave me when I said that. Hey, I'm writing the campaign. I'm going to give my players a Vorpal sword.
Yeah, I mean you can, and it sounds like it worked out pretty well. But you know, it's risky. You start handing out stuff like that, it's risky.
Yep. So, getting into my next topic, it is the topic of the Jabberwock fight.
Yes, that you didn't want to talk about last week.
No, I wanted some time to reflect, and I wanted time to think about what happened, and just kind of get a better idea on how to move forward from here. So I did indeed give my players a Vorpal sword. and they were able to have like maybe a couple combat sessions between forging it and fighting the Jabberwock. Nothing like hard or spectacular or like really
All
like
the warm up fights.
story breaking. They fought a gold golem. They fought a animated armor that had smites. One of the smites is my favorite one, and I'm definitely leaving it in. It's I can't remember what the name of the smite is, but if you hit somebody with it and they fail to save, and it's a charisma save, they are sent back to their prime plane.
Oh, so it has banishment.
Oh yeah, banishing smite. Yeah, it's just banishing smite.
Okay.
So in a campaign that's supposed to basically just be the owls, but they're still characters from the material plane that are in here.
Yeah.
Like sorry, back to material plane with you. Goodbye.
Back home. Make a new PC because you probably can't get back.
So well, I would write in there. It's like if a player from material plane gets banished, you can have them be on the outside portal of
Yeah.
Glide Sky Roost,
You
and they
could
can
make
just walk right back in.
you could make a banishing weapon that just banishes them for up to a minute.
That's what it does if you're on the same plane that they are.
Yeah.
So like if the owl gets hit with it, they're just going to be banished for a minute and then they come
Yeah.
back.
But I'm just saying you could make it where that's
Yeah.
all it does. Doesn't matter who it hits, just banish for a minute. Sort of locks them in a shadow
Well,
prison somewhere.
I really like the fact that I can just send these guys back to town. It's like, boop, you're back in town. Enjoy as they kind of finish the rest of the dungeon because it's near the end anyways. So I kind of like it. I'm gonna leave that one in.
Okay.
So they have the Vorpal sword. They didn't get any crits with it or anything fun. But they fought a Jub bird because my wife was like, "Hey, you have the Jabberwocky, but there's no Jub birds or Bandersnatch anywhere." And I'm like, "Well, actually, the kobolds are the Bandersnatch kobolds. That's the grouping I'm giving to them." So there's like the Bandersnatch warrior, the Bandersnatch rogue, the Bandersnatch sorcerer, and then I have the Bandersnatch beastmaster and the Bandersnatch blade master. And I'll come up with better names for what they do, but that's kind of like their specific roles. Maybe even throw in a couple other ones, but the Beastmaster basically is a one-time Bandersnatch, and he has a Jub bird. That's what I decided because after my wife said, "There's no Jub bird." All right, you called me out. Next session, Jub bird. Get ready for it. It's coming.
Here you
So
go. Fight the chocobo.
Fight the chocobo. So, I think I gotta ask this on our stream on Twitch when we were playing 7 Days to Die, and it's whether or not you've ever created a brand new monster from scratch.
Oh yeah, we
And
definitely did talk about this.
yeah, and essentially what most people do is they kind of just take a monster and modify it a little bit, use the base stats of the monster, maybe improve some, lower some, and just kind of move on from there, and you're done. So I was trying to do the same thing. I found the Jub bird and I was looking through for some kind of bird monstrosity that would be around CR5 that would work. And I came across the Deep Crow, my favorite monster. And I'm sad that I didn't think of this immediately because if you're a friend of Penny Arcade and Acquisitions Incorporated, it's a big monster for them, the Deep Crow. It's essentially a giant raven, or huge raven in this case, that has like 6 eyes, 3 on each side of its head, and its beak is like, it's got a beak on the top and bottom, a beak on the left and on the sides, and like it basically grabs you, grapples you, flies you 120 feet away, and then just like eats you, or just you drop.
Right.
Deep Crow.
As opposed to the Storm Crow from Magic the Gathering, which is the greatest card ever printed.
So I wanted to I just took him as the base stats, and I was like, I'll figure out what it does when the game happens. So I found the original drawing by Lewis Carroll for the Jub bird. And if you Google it right now, just Google Jub bird and go to images, you'll see it. There's all these like really cool, like half dinosaur, like raptor looking birds, and some like giant ones that like fly through the air. But like Lewis Carroll's one, it looks like a flamingo wearing a fedora.
That's a top hat.
No, it looks like a fedora. But anyways, so you have this long, scrawny-legged bird wearing a fedora, And the second I put in there, I was like, oh, this is a smooth criminal Jub Jub bird. I thought someone put the hat on it like as a joke.
Yeah.
But no, the original drawing has that stupid hat on its head. But it's through the looking glass. Things are stupid.
Yeah,
So
it's all supposed to be weird.
they fought the Jub Jub bird, and the ability that I gave it a couple times during the combat was an AoE Auto's Irresistible Dance.
Makes sense.
It makes sense. I love it. It's staying. And so is the hat. So they fought that.
I automatically imagine that when it does the Auto's Irresistible Dance, it's just the Chocobo music that starts playing. Do 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 do.
They're gonna
That's
get
what
it
I'm.
dismonetized.
Whatever. Not like we're getting any monetization anyway.
So they went that, and they actually went and fought the Jabberwock. Now, I had a lot of discussions with Reverend Panda on the stream about what I'm going to do with the Jabberwock. Like, how aggressive should it be? Should I boost any of its base stats, or should I just kind of go in raw and see how it goes? I took the base Jabberwock and I increased the intelligence of it a little bit because Lord of Luke, the Jabberwock, has been alive now for millennia, trapped in the Shadowfell. And essentially, my idea is that it would have Shadowfell-like powers. And if you look through the monster manual, there's the Shadow Dragon, and essentially it says, "Hey, any dragon that can get pulled into the Shadowfell, it gains these traits." And so
Right.
essentially, I
Shadow
could have
traits,
given
basically.
all the shadow traits and just called it a day. But I wanted to see what the level 9 group would have done to just a straight Jabberwock with increased intelligence, basically making it so Tasha's hideous laughter doesn't hit, essentially, or
All right.
does hit, essentially. And then we did the Jabberwock fight. I started off with it basically blending into the shadows because I still want that to kind of be the start of the fight. And it popped out and it started basically going to town on somebody. And no one was passing the save for the Burble. Nobody. Now, I feel that if you know that the Jabberwock burbles and you go into the fight with wax in your ears, you just immediately make that CR13 encounter a CR2. And it's not going to be fun. Because if everyone can get their attacks on the Jabberwock has nothing for health. There are CR2 monsters that have more health than the Jabberwock does.
I thought it was like 95 or something.
Yeah, it's like 130, I think.
Okay, I mean
And
that's not terrible.
it's not terrible, but I am also going into this fight with somebody has a Vorpal sword.
Yeah.
That's an attack. Essentially,
It's a couple attacks.
no, because we were talking. We ran the numbers. Like a crit with the Vorpal blade is like a minimum like 44 damage average.
Yeah. So an average is probably about 70. So that's a couple attacks.
2 attacks, yeah, a couple. So with 5 people, it's going to be bad. And the
Yeah.
Jabberwock is going to do a lot of hit and run tactics. It's going to fly over, blam 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 blam, fly away, and then come back, blam blam blam, fly away. Like if you hit it a couple times and get it bloodied, it needs to fly away, regenerate all its health back, and fly back in. But that's the way I was going to play it. I was going to go after any owl first, or if there was an owl wielding a Vorpal blade, they were first. And then third on the list would be anyone with the Vorpal blade. Owl with a Vorpal blade, owl, and then anyone else with a Vorpal blade would be the target priority of the Jabberwock. He's smart, but he still hates the owls a lot. So we get into combat. There's a start. People are failing the burble. Oh, what I wanted to mention is they all went in there with a wax or cotton or sticks in their ears. So I made it so that if they are deafening themselves, they have advantage on the check for the burble.
Okay.
But if they permanently deafen themselves, so no sound, okay, then you're immune to the burble effect. Like, I want that actual sacrifice to be in there. It's like, okay, I will go deaf potentially forever to not get burbled.
Right.
But otherwise, the advantage I think was actually okay because more often than not, it didn't. It landed about a little more than half the time because it is a DC 18 charisma save, but the range is only 30 feet. So that sounds like a lot, but it's really not that bad, especially if they scatter and just take pot shots at the Jabberwock. They won't be affected by it, and he'll go down pretty quickly.
Yeah,
It really matters.
it'll affect any melee people, and everybody else should stay out of range.
Right, right. But the thing is one of the burbling effects is you do your move in a random direction.
Yeah.
So immediately that person that just got burbled, let's say they have to move north 30 feet, in this case the barbarian 40 feet. Okay, now he's not in burble range anymore.
Yeah, that's fair.
So he gets a free turn. It wasn't too clear whether the other two effects from the burble were 1 and 2 you do nothing, 3 you move randomly in a direction your full move, and the other ones were the last one 4 was you make a melee attack at a near target,
Right.
the target nearest to you. Now, otherwise it does nothing. So 3 out of 4 shots you really don't do anything, but a lot of the times you'll run out of the burble and be able to do something. So they're doing fine. The Jabberwock is holding its own. They're getting spells to land because whatever the spell my wife had with her bard, something psychic lance, it was ridiculous, and it would have incapacitated him and taken off the burble. Now, in retrospect, I should have let that one land because it's better to basically lose the effect of the burbling than be slowed. You know.
Yeah.
So I saved from that a few times because I didn't want to lose the burbling effect, and Rothilium's Psychic Lance.
Yeah, Rolotham's Psychic Lance, 7d6 damage on a failed save, and is incapacitated until the start of your next turn.
The thing that's best about this spell is something she doesn't realize. If I would have done some more of the Shadowfell's like abilities, and it's like just disappearing, like it's hovering there, bonus action disappear because it's dark, and now it's just gone. She doesn't need to see the target. She just needs to know his name. She's like, okay, it's Lordelmook, right? Blam! Oh, hi. There you are. So
yeah, that's a weird caveat in that spell.
yeah. So she didn't know it, but that spell could have honestly turned the entire fight. Like if I was hiding a lot, she could have gone, all right, well, hi, Lordelmook, wherever you are. Blah, fuck you from a distance.
And it's a nice intelligence save.
Yeah, which is already 4, and I bumped it to like 8.
Yeah. So still a -1 on the save.
Yeah, it was hitting a lot. And so I saved out of that twice. And I was saving that last save for something really bad. And what happened was Tasha's Hideous Laughter was cast, and Lordelmook failed it. And so I fell out of the sky. It wasn't that far, but I fell out of the sky and laughing horribly. The Vorpal Blade guy runs up, slack, snick, snack, and there goes half the fucking Jabberwock's health pool. And I'm like, okay, well, I need to get up and move. So my next turn, I disengaged and moved away, but I was slowed. So I could only move like 15 feet in the air.
And that's all you could
Or
do.
5 feet in the air, wherever it was.
Well, yeah, because if you were prone or anything like that, that's half the movement just to get up.
So, and then I think I'm 30. My next turn comes around. I'm 30 feet in the sky. I have 4 hit points. Okay. My regeneration was turned off because of the Vorpal Blade. I need to fly away for at least a couple minutes so I can get all the health back and do this again. Well, I had used up the last legendary resistance to stop a slow hitting me. And that's when the second slow hit me. And the mage, the wizard, cast Hold Monster, and it failed spectacularly because the Jabberwock does not have advantage on spell checks,
which is odd. It is kind of odd. Like you could easily change that as you're the one writing this thing, and probably should have advantage
Like I
on
said, I
that.
want to fight him with the raw Jabberwock to see how much of a stomping it would have been, and it was a stomping because I don't have advantage on that save. It hit on, and I fell out of the sky 30 feet. And what happens when you fall 30 feet out of the sky? How much damage do you take?
Uh, 3d6, which is
And
going to
guess
be
and guess what
which
I rolled?
max
7.
7, but you only had 4 hit points left, so
And then honestly, the next turn was the guy with the Vorpal sword, and he just chopped off the head. And what I said in the comment, said in the session is like, hey, what's your passive perception? You know, um, Kessler, and he's like, oh, it's this. It's like, hey, you know this, being you cast a spell, and you know what paralyzed monster does. Is if the Jabberwock was still paralyzed, his body wouldn't be slumped down limp on the ground, but it currently is. And you know that the fall killed the Jabberwock. And then the guy with the Vorpal Blade got up and attacked the Jabberwock, got a critical hit because
yeah, because
paralyzed or helpless, really, and did something like 89 damage or something ridiculous.
yeah, in the earlier editions that was called coup de grace or
Coup de grace.
yeah, coup de grace or coup de grace, aka coup de grace.
Coup de grace.
Yeah, coup de
Uh,
grace.
and so they had the head, and it was done. And it was the most depressing end to my campaign that I could possibly think of. I don't know what it is about me and ending campaigns, but I can't end a campaign and have it be a memorable experience that will last for the ages in a bitter hard fight.
So there's a few things on this one, and you know these, but I'm still going to tell them to you anyway.
Yeah.
One, it was one monster versus 5 PCs.
Level
Uh,
9, too.
yeah, so it was a CR 13,
13, yep.
and they're level 9s. 5 of them. The math's not going to add up. I mean, they're just going to win through numbers, straight up numbers. So to make that a more difficult fight, you have to add in other obstacles, whether it be other monsters or difficult terrain, battlefield things going on.
It was his home turf. It won't be a lair, but there's no roof to the area, so he can just do drive-bys. He doesn't have flyby, but he can fly in, has a reach of 10 feet, smack, 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 fly away.
Then there's the issue that you also mentioned that you played him via raw stats.
Yeah.
Like truthfully, he should have flyby if you want to make it challenging. Give him flyby. Uh, I don't know all of his stats. I don't have it on hand at the moment, but definitely 3 legendary resist.
It's literally
Probably
in your Discord chat.
I'm not looking at all that right now. Legendary actions. There's enough things that you can add to make it a challenging fight if you want to go 1v5.
Yeah.
If
So I know the CR is based off of four players of equal level. So
Mhm.
meaning once you add the fifth player in there, it drops the CR by I think like 5. So this would have been a CR 8 encounter, which is
Yeah.
why I was kind of going for that level, level 8 for this thing. But now they're to level 9, and then when the players brought it up, level 9 opens up so many more spells for
Mhm.
wizards
Yes, it
and
does.
bards and
Yeah, it
whatnot.
opens up 5th level stuff.
So it may be that I have to keep them at 8, or, and I think this is the option I'm going to go with, is, and I was looking at this today, going through my monster manual and our friend Jeffrey's Fizzbang Treasury of Dragons.
Mhm.
Going through and looking at the shadow dragons and adding in essentially all the um, shadow effects. So basically changing his gaze, instead of being fire damage, it will be necrotic damage. Um, it says life drain, I think, in here or something like
Mhm.
that. But I'm not going to go with that. No, it is necrotic. Yeah, so I'm changing it to necrotic for sure.
You actually might want to give him a life drain effect where he steals everybody within melee range, steals a portion of their hit points to heal himself.
Well, I'm definitely adding in Shadow Stealth. While in dim light or darkness, the dragon can take a hide action as a bonus action.
Yeah, yeah.
And since he basically blends straight into the shadow, unless they have sunlight on them, that's pretty much going to murder the party because he's just going to every turn at the end of his turn. Okay, I'm gone.
Yeah, I mean, if he's hidden, they can still make an action, a perception check to find him.
Yeah. But he can still run away. Once you're hidden, you're not seen anymore. So
Yeah.
there's don't really need flyby in that case, I think.
Well, hide is just a stealth check, basically. His might be an automatic success or whatever, but to spot him is a perception check.
Yes. So what I'm thinking is because I'm giving him Shadow Stealth, and he has a +6 to his Dex, and he'll have proficiency after this too. So he'll have a +8 to actually no, he'll have a plus um +5,
Reasonably high.
+5.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he'll have a +5 to that. And so he'll be very high. So he'll probably make it. You do the high check. Let's say you average like a 13 or something like that, or some more like a 16. And it's like if your passive isn't that or better, then you can't see him.
Not without taking an action
Yeah,
to
without taking
look
action
for him.
to show him. But there's ways around it. With fairy fire stuff like
A
that.
light spell.
It has to be daylight
Oh, okay.
specifically. And as I mentioned a few times, I gave the players an opportunity to buy a bauble that's just daylight.
Right,
They were
yeah,
all
yeah.
like, "No, not going to buy that. Ain't going to buy that daylight orb."
Yeah. And it turns out they didn't need it.
They didn't need it. It's true. He'll have, while in dim light and darkness, he'll have resistance to damage that isn't force, psychic, or radiant. That will increase his already non-existent resistance issue to anything, and give him a lot more health. The only thing he's immune to is poison, charmed, and the frightened and poison effects.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't even have the takes half damage from non-magical weapons.
Yep. Yeah,
Right,
I mean,
so
there's a million things you need to alter on his stats.
Yeah.
Make it a challenge.
Yeah. And then I think I'm actually going to make that area his lair. I'm going to bring in the probably not the Dark Portal's lair effect, but there's a lair effect that basically says that the entire area is shrouded in darkness. And being that they're already in the Feywild, which is perpetual twilight, it's just dark, 100% dark. So it's dark vision or a torch at best.
Right. Dark vision or some light source.
Yeah.
Th-
And
Thus
you
want Devil Sight.
plus you want Devil Sight, Dan.
Yeah.
And I think that will probably be enough to kind of really double up him, and that's kind of where I was going to go originally. Like I said, I really wanted to see how the level 9s would handle the CR13.
Yep.
And they stomped him. They just utterly stomped him. They took him, they put his mouth to the curb, and
nobody likes that movie reference.
Oh, don't they? And walked away with a Jabberwock skull.
Okay, maybe it's just me. I hate that movie reference, but yeah.
That one of the players basically used as a bed until he turned into a horrible tentacle monster and fled town. The best part, though, is that in the Jabberwock description, and this is the last thing that happened in the campaign. The last thing's going to happen in the published campaign too. Is you roll 3d4, I believe. Sorry, 3d8. And that many years later, the portal that was created between the material plane and the Feywild that led to Glide Sky disappears, and back in the ruins that they fought the Jabberwock, a new Jabberwock emerges from the ruins. Thus, basically dooming them to continue the cycle of sending out a party of owls to go out and fight the Jabberwock. But in this case, because the previous group um, subverted that ending and sealed the Jabberwock away, it became Lordlemook. This is now a new Jabberwock with a new name and probably a whole nother new story around it. Because in how the campaign ended, the Warp Blade left Glide Sky Roost with the player that was bound to it, and they were not there when the new Jabberwock was born, thus making the one weakness for the Jabberwock gone forever. But he's also a planeswalker, so he could just probably walk back in like, "Hey, I got it right here."
Yep, here I am. Unless it's hundreds of years before they properly deal with the Jabberwock again. Of which, yeah, at that point you send adventurers out into some other plane to find the one sword that's been lost to time.
I definitely want to make like a another like a one shot almost, or like a small couple session one where like you start off at 15th level and
Mhm.
have to deal with this new Jabberwock.
Yeah,
Whether
that'd be
it's the same group of players or if it's a different group of players, I think that'd be interesting. But the true sequel to the campaign is actually already in my head, and the seeds are already planted throughout this entire adventure. As you kind of go through the Fomorian um, manor that they had, the pseudo Fomorian manor, um, there's a black book that that Talibu, the wizard, the wizard owl, wanted you to retrieve for her.
Mhm.
That book, whether you return it to her or not, is in her possession if you seek her out at the end of the campaign. And essentially, it's your standard, comic book
E-
trope Necronomicon.
right. Evil book of said lore
Evil book of evil deeds.
that will
Part
then be used
three.
for evil deeds,
And she will make the sacrifices necessary to increase her power, as she always tend to do.
as wizards tend to do.
And she will be a lich, an owlin lich.
So, as your Jabberwock died to falling damage, uh, we were we were playing in we were playing D&D this past Friday.
Real quick, how many dragons have died to falling damage? I mean, it's got to be a lot, right?
I would imagine it's a reasonable amount.
Right.
I personally had never seen that though. I've seen like maybe a griffin or something like that fall die to falling damage, but I've never seen a powerful beast in Dungeons and Dragons die to falling damage. And I think it's hilarious that you had that scenario go down, and then we're playing in a D&D game this past Friday, and we had an almost exact same scenario go down.
Okay.
So we're playing in the pirate campaign. I play a barbarian. I've got flying boots for this story, and our buddy Muffin plays a warforged sorcerer, wild mage sorcerer named Rust Bucket, who is. We had found a new island. We were sort of skirting around it, and we're just trying to get a good look at the island to see what's on it. And he flies up above the crow's nest on his magic broom, of which there's a whole other conversation about magic brooms, which we may get to this week or not. And he flies up above the crow's nest, so he's up at least 120 feet, if not high. And he's just sort of looking out. And then Johnny, I guess the other DM, had rolled it up at random encounters, and there'd be damned if there wasn't a rock, the ROC, the giant fucking Thunderbird as it is, and it swoops down and grabs him. So I'm like, oh shit, here we go. I'm a barbarian. I'm never gonna catch this thing. So I start flying off in its direction, just trying to keep up with this thing. All of our ranged attackers are just pelting it with whatever they can. Our druid shapeshifts to go up there and fight with it and stuff. And Muffin casts Thunderstep to get away from it. Yeah, he was grappled. I think he was restrained also, but I think you could still spellcast.
Yeah.
Either way, he gets Thunderstep off. He gets away from it, and then his next round he cast a spell called Control Wind, and I was not even really familiar with this spell. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna read through the parts that matter. Excuse me.
Okay. So while you're off doing that,
Okay. No, sorry. I was choking.
you were choking. Oh, okay. I
Yeah.
was just going to buy time for you and say that technically, did you know that you can only grapple something if you have hands, or unless your ability says it, you can grapple targets. Something the Rock has is something that says you make a talent attack, and if they, if it hits, then they make a DC check to, or be grappled by the
Right.
Rock in this case. But
Yeah. It's a gargantuan sized creature. You know,
right,
it's
but
massive.
But if you use spells like Spectral Horse and whatnot that lets you define what the animal looks like, make sure to always define that the animal has hands instead of hooves. That way you can grapple people.
Well, that's a ridiculous thing, but you're not wrong. I've never thought of that, but yeah, it makes sense to me. So anyway, he casts Control Winds, and the spell reads: You take control of the air in a 100-foot cube that you can see within range. Choose one of the following effects when you cast the spell. The effect lasts for the spell's duration unless you use your action on a later turn to switch to a different effect. You can also use your action to temporarily halt the effect or restart when you've halted. And there are three effects. It's got Gust, Downdraft, and Updraft. He used Downdraft. You cause a sustained blast of strong wind to blow downward from the top of the cube. Ranged weapon attacks that pass through the cube or that are made against targets within it have disadvantage on their attack rolls. A creature must make a strength saving throw if it flies into the cube for the first time on a turn or starts its turn there flying. On a failed save, the creature is knocked prone. And I'll be damned if Johnny did not fail that roll. I don't know what a rock strength is, but it's a lot.
It
And
is +9.
yeah, so it's unlikely to fail the roll, but it he managed to. And we, because of how the combat had been going for the past couple of rounds, this thing was 200 feet up in the air. So
Okay.
yeah, a 200-foot drop in one round, that's 20 d6 of damage. And it had already sustained some damage, so I'll be damned if this rock did not fall to its death.
That's great.
Yeah, I've never seen it before. So that's how you kill dragons. Fucking control wins.
Control wins and pray your DM rolls poorly.
Yeah, and pray they roll terribly on the saving throw.
All right.
Uh,
So
it,
I still have to get
I,
through so many more topics, and we're already an hour in. So be quick.
wow, that's pretty much it on that one. What the hell else is what's super important? Like I've still got three other topics we could talk about. But
Listen, okay, so I this is for the podcast, and because I know I've already talked to you a little bit about this off stream on our actual Twitch stream. So if you're not watching our Twitch stream, please make sure to tune in. We're streaming almost Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday now. So mostly video games, as we just kind of talk D&D with Panda and Muffin, as we just mentioned there. But a lot of D&D conversation, a lot of zombies die, and then I do a lot of DM prep, and then of course our games. But anyways, so there's a new starter set coming out. All right. It is called the Dungeons and Dragons a Stormwreck Isle. Okay. Now there is an article on Business Wire that outlines all the new products Hasbro's coming out with in 2022, and among these in the small little area that I'm looking at is Dungeons and Dragons Critical Role Presents Call of the Netherdeep. It's going to be an amazing book, especially if you like Critical Role, especially if you want to play a campaign that's not on the Sword Coast.
I mean, that's a legit reason to get it right there.
Right. Matt Mercer and everything that he's done for that world is amazing. And I'm telling you that from the bottom of my heart, I believe everything there is amazing. And I still have yet to consume an ounce of Critical Role content. I never will. Moving on, there's also the Dungeons and Dragons of Stormwreck Isle. Now it's listed as that as such, but in the pictures that they have with the same article, the picture of that Dragons of Stormwreck Isle says starter set on it. So we know it's a starter set, not an actual book release. But it is on the Stormwreck, which is a 3.5 source book. It looks like.
Yes, it was. I've seen copies of it. I never owned it though.
Right. So what I found interesting is, first off, my biggest complaint is that in this business article they link this as being $49.99 for the starter set and $49.99 for the Call of Netherdeep. Now, for the Call of Netherdeep, that is the standard price for any campaign book or any book that comes out that's hardcover. However, for starter sets, it's a starter set. You get dice, a small module, some blank character sheets, some pre-made character sheets, and that's it. It's not worth $50. I mean, you probably could break it down to like, oh, this module's worth 20 and the dice is worth 20 because there's a D&D logo on it and the other stuff. So it's a $50 value for $20.
I mean, that's
Whatever.
almost certainly how they're looking at it.
Right. So I was looking at this. I'm really irritated by the price point because you want your first hit to be relatively free because that's how you get people hooked on your product. The current starter set is $20. The Essentials kit, which is like starter set part 2, is $20. The Stranger Things uh, thing, extension,
Yeah,
which is pretty much a starter set, is $20. It doesn't come with dice. It comes with a Demogorgon mini, which is amazing. Now, it's Stranger Things Demogorgon, not a real
yeah.
Demogorgon. But I was also looking at the other products coming out: Magic the Gathering, Streets of New Capernia set booster,
Is that it?
and they have
Oh, that's
that's the next set.
a magic set though. That's not
Yeah.
D&D.
But this is D&D related. Magic the Gathering, Commander Legends, Battle for Baldur's Gate.
Okay.
Now, my understanding of this product is that this is a Commander deck, okay, with a Baldur Gate theme, pulling some cards from the D&D set and basically making a black blue rogue deck that's Commander
Commander
based.
Legends was actually a full set. Like
It's
it
not.
wasn't a
This is not a set. This is definitely not a set.
okay. They're just calling it Commander Legends for some weird fucking
Yeah.
reason. Then.
Now, if it is a full set, but just not in the cycle, then because that's what the store owner believes as well too, is that it's actually going to be just like an extra set. If this is
Well,
an extra set, I guess the price point they have here is $8. I guess it's $8 per pack.
that's $8 a pack. That's Commander Legends was its own thing. It wasn't part of the cycle. It was 361 cards. Came
Well,
out
anyways,
in
I am
2020.
excited for that. I have to get all those cards now. But I was hoping that because I was under the impression that Battle for Baldur's Gate was a commander deck, and those are usually $50, and that maybe
40.
if this price point was wrong, that the Dragons of Stormwreck Isle price point would also be wrong. But
So
I just you make me feel worse now.
yeah, I have a couple thoughts on the price point thing that you're talking about and mind you, I don't buy starter sets. I haven't bought a starter set since 1990. I I always just assumed that all 5th edition starter sets were $50. Had no idea. Never thought about it until you brought it up. Uh, and to what you were saying, yeah, it probably is. That's almost certainly how they're viewing it now going forward. M- We've talked about it on here a bunch of times. We've definitely talked about it off stream a bunch of times, but WotC is in this uber money grubbing phase. And I really hope it's not going to kill their product or kill the company. But it wouldn't surprise me because
There
it's happened before with things like this.
there are rumors that Hasbro wants to sell off Wizards of the Coast.
I wouldn't blame them. We know for a fact that their quality check has gone downhill massively, and I don't know why, but it has. The testing, the research and development of Magic the Gathering has been awful for the past 3-4 years. It has been very bad. When it comes to the Magic set, you were talking about they released a commander deck with a duplicate card in it. That has never happened before. Just this past month, they dropped Monsters of the Multiverse, the 3-pack thing, with a spine misprint.
Yeah.
Like they're not quality checking their products. Maybe they're just overworked and understaffed. I don't know what the hell is going on, but it's noticeable by the public.
Yeah, because we knew that Hasbro was spinning off WotC into its own division.
Yeah,
Um,
I know we had
and
talked about it briefly.
and then the rumor came out this week that the Hasbro was already working on options to sell off that division of Wizards of the Coast.
Yeah, so I'm very curious to see where this goes, but it does not bode well for Magic the Gathering. It does not bode well for Dungeons and Dragons.
I don't
Long term
see
that may
why
be
they
help.
would.
Yeah, I mean they make a lot of money, and I'm sure that that's going to keep going for a while. But they're really starting to get under the skin of the people who buy their products.
Yeah. Real quick though, just this side funny bit. They're also releasing 2 new Monopoly versions, as you do. By the way, do you know why there's so many different versions of Monopoly out there that are not actually from Hasbro?
Um, I definitely have looked into this before, but I don't remember what I found. That was years ago when I thought about it.
I the details that I have are fuzzy, but essentially the brand for Monopoly license was not renewed, I think, in London, in England, and they don't own the license to Monopoly. It's because of how old it was. It was free for everybody to use.
Okay,
Thus, that's why you have third-party gaming companies making so many different versions of Monopoly and then shipping it over here and selling it, but they're untouchable as they're being made over there.
yeah, like my mom has a Catopoly, Dogopoly,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
all these
Well,
opolies.
they are coming out with 2 new versions of Monopoly. They have the Bridgerton edition game, which I don't know what that is, don't care. But they do have Monopoly, the Fall Guys edition game. Now, guys, if you know what Fall Guys is, you knew that it was extremely popular at the beginning of the pandemic in 2020. It became the most popular game, um, and nearly everybody was playing it. If you watch Twitch viewers, everybody was playing the thing.
See,
It was
I
intensely popular.
for a very
Okay.
brief moment when you said the Fall Guys, I was immediately thinking, why the hell would they make a Lee Majors Monopoly all these years later
Um,
from the 1981 TV show?
there were a couple communities of speedrunners and Mario makers, the communities that jumped in on Fall Guys and just loved it, absolutely loved it. And they were just going crazy with it. It was a lot of fun.
I
But the
watched
second,
people stream it. It was fun to watch.
oh yeah, it's definitely fun to watch. It's essentially it's MXC.
Yeah, it's
Um,
basically MXC with little. I don't know
yeah,
what you call those little characters, but
I
little
mean,
cartoon characters, basically.
I almost thought about playing it because they got a Godzilla skin in there. I was like, oh,
Oh yeah,
Godzilla
yeah.
skin? You you know how to get me in there. But anyways, Fall Guys immediately fell out of popularity only a few months into the pandemic because a older game became more popular, called shit. Can't remember the damn name. The one where
Look.
everybody's sus and walking around in the space
Oh,
station and killing people.
yeah.
Yeah, you can't remember it now, can you?
No, I could have.
No.
Um.
What is it?
Uh. Uh. Wow. I look up the word sus. Oh, Among Us.
Among
Among
Us. That's what it
Us.
is.
I looked up the word sus, and immediately it doesn't give me the name. It just gives me survival space game. Super sus. Who is the imposter? No, I want to know what the game is. Among Us. Yeah, because
So Among Us.
I watched people
Yeah.
stream that too. That was a fun one.
So that came into popularity. So Hasbro, whoever is choosing to make your products and moving forward, they're doing a piss poor job because no one's playing File Guys anymore. Everyone played Among Us. If you didn't come up with an Among Us version of Monopoly, you did it wrong. No one's buying Fall Guys stuff. That would have been popular 2 years ago. People would have bought that. And then on top of that, you're telling me that your stupid announcement here has new Nerf weapons for freaking Power Rangers, okay? And you're coming out with a Power Rangers Dragon Claw Nerf weapon and a two-handed broadsword Power Rangers Dino Fury Mega Fury Saber, and you didn't give me a damn Nerf D&D weapon? Where is my damn Nerf Vorpal sword? You're like, that is where the money is for fat nerds like me. We want a Vorpal sword on our wall. We don't want the Power Rangers Dino Fury Mega Fury saber. Where's my D&D Vorpal sword?
Yeah,
Man,
get on this, Hasbro. You're failing miserably at giving Christopher everything he wants out of life.
it's also still funny too that Star Wars the Boba Fett starship is just called the Boba Fett starship now.
Oh my, is that what they're calling it?
Yeah,
I thought they were calling it the Firehawk.
that's the type of ship it is.
Yeah, I know that's the type of ship. That's what they've been referring to it as in the show, since apparently you can't call it the Slave One anymore.
Just call it the Fetter.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Fetter. That works. So again, I know we're running. We're 15 minutes over our hour, but this is fine. I have two
Yeah.
more things I have to talk about
Let's do it.
because.
Let's do it.
All
I'll
right,
save mine for next week. Mine aren't really important anyway.
all right, all right. Oh, sorry. Back to the starter kit for the Dragons of Stormwrack Isle. Stormwreck Isle has Aquatic Elves, which are already in 5th edition, and the Hadozi.
I don't know what a Hadozi is.
Those are the monkey.
They had a different name. I don't have it in front of me. I
No,
could
it's still
probably
Hadozi.
don't
We
think
talked
that
about this when we reviewed the
did we?
UA for the multiverse. They were in there.
Oh no, yeah. That might be what they called them. That's not the actual name. That's not the proper name.
Well, whatever. But yeah, they may introduce them in there. Now, if they introduce the Hadozi in the starter set, that's a new race for D&D. That may be why it's $50.
I think that's a little weird.
Eh,
Vanara, I think, is what they're supposed to be called. That's the actual
nah,
Oriental term for them.
I like Hadozi.
I'm look. They are they are in Dungeons and Dragons books already with the proper name from historical mythology.
You big ooker.
So
All right.
they shouldn't go messing with it and changing it. Stick with what's already there.
You ook and the duke.
Anyway, so you have other topics.
Yeah. So we had our new campaign start this Saturday. We're playing through Lost Mines of Phandelver. Um, one of my players is now DMing for us, and I'm playing my character, and we all have brand new characters, and the DM was playing, and Mike the DM was doing a good job. He's done some one shots in the past. He knows all the rules. Um, a couple things that I can already point out, like things just to kind of look out for. And this is really for all DMs, but just because he did these things, it just popped up in my head. I was trying to do a lot of role play with the other people that were there in the cart, and he, as a DM, kept coming in with responses, but the DM's not there to respond to me talking to another player.
Yep.
It's the player's job to respond to me about that, and I think he realized that too after I was still talking to people, and he kept giving his 2 cents in.
It's easy to do as a DM, and
Yeah,
you have to realize you're doing it and then not do that.
yeah, and by the end of the session, he wasn't doing it anymore. So first time back in the seat in like 2 years. So
Yep.
it happens. But yeah, definitely if you're a DM, you got to let the players talk, but you do got to keep them on track. Don't let them go crazy with their conversations because we did do that. We went crazy a few times.
Yeah.
Like,
Allow them to role play. Allow them to have their moment because that's very important. At the same time, you do have you got your story to tell. You have things to do, places to be.
my character is very very low intelligence, and I'm now saying he's also very young. So, like when one of the players was washed away in the trap that's in the very first mine, they were basically swept away out of the cave. My character just turned to the other players and goes, "Well, she's dead." Just not missing a beat. And they're like, "Do you have a problem with object permanence?" I was like, "What's that?" It's like, "So like if you don't see it, it doesn't exist." It's like, "Yeah, if I don't see it, it doesn't exist." You know, obviously. And so the guy turned out the torch, and I was like, "Oh my god, I'm dead! Everybody's dead. We're all dead." Then he light the torch back up. And I was like, "Oh, you guys are back."
Oh, we got resurrected. Awesome.
So You know, we had some fun moments like that, but we would go on like that in the middle of combat, and then Mike very awesomely would be like, the goblin's like, "What are they talking about? I don't know. They're talking about something. I don't know. Shoot them!" And just would shoot us. So
Oh yeah, players love having conversations like that and doing things of that nature in D&D. That's so much of what it is.
yeah, but I love how he's like having conversations with the goblins, talking to each other. It's like, why is that one talking? Why won't he shut up? I don't know. Let's shoot him.
Who's he even talking to?
um, and the other thing that he did that I kind of noticed too is like there was a very particular ending to the end of that first encounter, essentially,
Mhm.
where there's a big boss and he has a guy, and that boss goblin's gonna like kill the guy unless you pay him money or whatnot. And I was trying to basically persuade him to let me up there close to him with or without a weapon. So I would piss him off, so he would hit me, and I was going to basically retaliate with my reaction attack and do my 2d10 damage upon taking damage.
Mhm.
Okay, that's what I wanted to do, and I couldn't get any rolls to happen. You know, like I felt really just like as a player, like we're talking, we go back and forth. I'm like, hey, so can I come up there? And the immediate answer is just no. Now I don't remember if in the book it says that the goblin refuses to let people up there, but even if it says that in the book for DMs out there, like the goblin refuses to let players up there, instead of just immediately saying no, still have the player make that persuasion check. Set the DC at 75. All right, that's kind of like my internal
Mm,
thought process to this,
yeah, I would disagree
where
wholeheartedly with that.
where the goblin's not going to do it. There's no chance that you're going to convince that goblin to let you up there. You're not going to persuasion check your way the king giving up his crown and giving you the kingdom. Like that's an impossible check.
Right.
But the player can still make the roll. They don't have to know that it's an impossible thing. I like players personally that roll a lot of dice. So I let players roll a lot of dice. I
You
don't want things to be impossible, but there are sometimes there are impossible things.
you
So
can
if
you
it's
you can do that, but I don't see the point in it if it's an impossibility. If that goblin's not going to let you up there with him, why make
well,
the roll?
it comes from my perspective as a player. It's like I don't I my agency is taken away from me. Like I have really good charisma. I'm trying to use my charisma to do a non-combat thing, and I can't make any kind of persuasion check, intimidation check, deception check to get my way up there. Like nothing's happening. There's no way of it going on.
The DM could
Like
allow it as misdirection to make you
right.
to make you think that you oh maybe you had a chance of getting up
That's
there.
that's what I'm saying. You
But the
always
problem the problem with that, and this is the problem, if they're using it as misdirection and then you roll a nat 20, it
mhm.
simply just shows that they were using it as misdirection. It's not a good method of going about that. Yeah, the best.
But I mean, even if someone rolls a nat 20 on a skill check, that doesn't mean that a critical is an automatic success.
No, I
Skill
am
checks
aware.
do not work that way.
I am
And
aware.
so if you have players who think that way, then you got to tell them, sorry, skill checks 20s aren't automatic successes. Ones aren't automatic failures. You still add your bonuses to it and go forward from there.
If you have
Now,
if you have an 18 charisma, and you roll an at 20, it would give you a
24.
20, well, 26, because I'd imagine you have uh, whatever the modifier
I
persuasion is.
don't, but in my case, I don't. But
Yeah, but if they're setting their DC at 35 and they know for a fact you can't make it, I don't see the point in making that roll. I just
yeah,
don't.
fair enough. I don't. I like the players rolling dice. You know,
I like my players rolling dice if it matters.
eh, because but there's also the chance too that like maybe you're gonna play with it that the book says that the goblin will never get up there and the 20 happens and you're like, well, I'll let the player come up here, take that chance and step out of that comfort zone, and
Yeah,
it may just be a style, but
it's a DMing style. Every DM has their little quirks and bugs and things they like and don't like. And for me, that's
yeah,
one of them I'm just never going to utilize. If there's if there's a chance at all it could succeed, I'll allow it. But if there isn't, I'm not going to.
it just felt like in that scenario where we were playing, and there was a lot of back and forth, and there's zero checks happening the entire time. No deception checks. When I said, sure, I'll be happy to pay you. That's an obvious lie, but there was no deception check made for me from saying that. So I don't know. Like I said, I'd have to go back and look, but there was no checks happening at all. There needed to be some checks there. Even if they're going to be impossible checks, in my opinion, there needed to be something there to make me feel like I wasn't just being railroaded away to this one conclusion.
Yeah, I was not there for it. I don't know all of the conversation.
Well,
If there's
you,
a lot of back and forth going on, I know where you're
yeah,
going with this. And if there was a lot of back and forth going on, yeah, maybe there should be some checks in there. Not necessarily to get up on the pedestal with the goblin, but there might
yeah.
be other stuff going on that needed
There
checks.
needed to be something. So like, this will kind of lead into the next thing I want to talk about too. But that's just kind of like the feedback I had from that. Everything else was fine. Combat was fine. There were some funny things. There were some non-funny things. He did forget to mention the goblin that was outside the cave with the pot on its head, because I was kind of really hoping to see that, because I was like, my guy's totally going to steal that pot and wear it on his head. I think it's good armor, but he
Are you
didn't.
playing chaotic stupid?
And no, I'm playing lawful stupid.
Oh, okay. Okay then.
So, one thing to do note is I did actually make some changes to our Twitch channel on Twitch.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's a stupid statement. I made some changes. All of our videos are now saved for 60 days. So instead of the 14-day before they get removed, they're now up there for 60 days. So you can go and you can watch our first session for Lost Mines at Phandelver, and you can look and see my feedback and see if it actually would have mattered or not.
And I could even do it 60 days from now, or almost 60 days from now.
Yeah, you won't, but yeah,
No,
you can.
you know I won't.
So this is the last thing I want to talk about, and I have to get this off my chest. For all of you out there who are still playing through Icewind Dale, this is something that happens in Chapter 1. If you care to listen to it and the spoilers that happen for Tourmaline, please feel free to stay on. For those of you that don't want any spoilers at all whatsoever, you can please leave now. I know we're already going along, so this is where you can bow out and I won't feel sad. So, I'm playing Adventures League. I have a small table of 5. Small table of 5. And we're doing Icewind Dale hardcover. We get to Tourmaline, and they decide to basically take up the town quest to basically go clear out the kobolds in the mine. So currently with me at the table is a Drow something or other. Is Drow something or other ranger friend? Another player who's a human bard, and there is a Lionel, I think it is, from Theros,
Oh,
ranger.
yeah, the lion people. I don't
Yeah,
remember what they're called.
yeah. And the best part is, you know what I gave her from Chapter 2. Because somehow Adventures League will not let you use Theros in a main campaign setting. But I figured, hey, since this is Icewind Dale, and this actually exists in Icewind Dale, you could be from Theros, and it will make sense.
You'll have to tell me later. I don't know what you're talking about. So,
It's one of the quests
man, it's been so long since
with
I've read
with
that.
the blue, 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 blue people.
Yeah, I have no idea. You'll have to
Okay,
tell me.
all right, I'll tell you later. And the last person at the table was a Kobold Artificer. So the Kobold Artificer's kind of taking the lead on this, which is amazing because this is the same player with the -1 perception that basically decided to attack the Archfey because there was no other options because he couldn't talk his way out of a paper bag. His bright idea was, let's go talk to the kobolds and get them to leave the mine. So they kind of work their way through the mine. No encounters at all. They skip the giant rats. They skip the grill. And they get down to the bottom. They start talking to the kobold. He's immediately impressed that this kobold is standing, back stretched held high with these wings, talking in nice, good, fluent common. And he starts talking to the players, and they're like, hey, do you want to go talk to the town speaker? They don't want you to be in the mine anymore, and, they'll kill you otherwise. And the winged kobold's like, I would absolutely love to go to town with you and talk over things, and making this conversation happen was the kobold and the drow guy. And he's like, I want to insight check that. And he rolls like a 13. And I was like, you immediately think something's wrong. Because this kobold's talking proper and he's happy to negotiate. You just feel something wrong deep within your drow bones. And so they basically say, yeah, we'll just take just you in, leave the kobolds in the mine, but at the top, and we'll go talk. And if there's a good situation, you can come on out, and we'll work something out. So they bring the winged kobold back to town. And there's a little bit of apprehension at first, but the town speaker's like, yeah, I'll be happy to talk with the kobold about getting the kobolds out of the mine and being miners for us here in town and giving them a home and a place here. And the guys keep trying to make this insight check on this kobold, winged kobold, and he's getting like 7, 8, 4, 3. He can't think of any reason, just that this thing is ultimately very suspicious. And
Right.
so the town speaker and the kobold, winged kobold, decide to go to the town hall and talk things through. They make their way to the town hall. The drow decides to follow them, as does the human bard. And they get there. They sneak by the window. They're trying to listen in. They kind of listen in, and basically they're trying to basically say, "Yeah, you just give us homes and food and warmth, and we'll mine everything out of that mine for you. We'll be more than happy to do that." And then I had to make a perception check because he could barely see through the frosted windows. And I said, "You see a flash of blue light. You see the townspeople stand up and leave." And then they sneak around. It's like you hear the townspeople instruct the guards to go get the kobolds out of the mine, set them up for lodgings within the town, and they'll basically be very good miners. And the drow stops the guards, just like, "Hey, I don't know what happened, but that townspeaker's not himself." The guards are like, "I don't know what you're talking about. He seems fine to us. Whatever." He's like, "No, no, no, I'm seriously. Get him over here." And so they call him and they get him over here. And walking around the corner is the town speaker, who's a half orc. He's like, "Hey, what's going on? Nice to see you again. How can I help you?" And he's like, "I don't know what happened, but I think that kobold has you under some kind of mind control right now. You're not going to be in your right mind." And he tries to intimidate the kobold. And at this point in time, the kobold is hunched over, going. He tries to intimidate the kobold, rolls like a 25. He's like, "Tell us what you did to the town speaker." And it's like, Trex is sorry. Please don't hurt Trex. Please, Trex is good. Trex is a good goblin. We'll mine for you. I promise.
Right.
And
Goes back to you speaking kobold.
right.
Like broke ass English.
And the guy keeps trying to intimidate him. I was like, dude, you haven't been intimidated. You would have had him intimidated with a 1. He is very intimidated. And so then all of his attention shifts back to the town speakers, like, "I know you did something. I know something's up." He tried an Arcana check and a Nature check and failed all of them. He couldn't think of a single thing that was going on. And the girl, the human bard, she's like sneaks away and she comes over to me and is like, "Hey, can I use these?" I was like, "Sure." So I bring her over to the side, and what she was referring to was she's the doppelganger.
Oh
And
yeah, yeah.
I told her that she could use all the doppelganger traits. I don't care which. Because it's not fun to be a doppelganger and not be able to have all the cool stuff.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm going to read the mind of the town speaker. And I was like, what you get from the town speaker is that he's going to have your friend locked up and thrown in jail. Ha ha ha, this ruse is working fine. So she
Including
comes over.
maniacal laughter.
She comes over and she starts trying to basically intimidate the town speaker. It's not going to work. I still had
Yeah.
an intimidation check go through. Not going to work. Hence, back to my previous thing with the other guy. I still had
Yeah.
them do the rolls. But
Okay, now that you said it, in that scenario, yeah, I probably would have allowed that because that's one of them where it is a ruse. Like,
yeah,
yeah, because if they're trying to intimidate, that might be a scenario where you don't want them to know that they can't.
yeah. So they're trying to do that. The guy is trying to do it, and he's starting to get really bad. And basically, he's getting really threatening to the town speaker. The guards are now on guard, kind of ready to start stabbing at you. And yeah, you could definitely tell that the town speaker had it. So I had the town speaker leaning into her I was like, "You done good. You helped the town. You've been paid. Now it's time for you and your friends to leave. The town is safe in my hands." And I threw in this, and the town speaker winks at you. And I was like, "You have 30 minutes to leave town." And then the player kind of like stopped, like he accepted that he had been beaten in this. Whatever has happened has happened. The town speaker is lost. He extends his hand, is like, "All right, 30 minutes and I'll leave town." And so I'm like, "All right." Town speaker, extends his hand and shakes it. And it's like, I stab him.
There you
I was
go.
like, "All right, roll initiative." And then the town speaker and the guards proceeded to absolutely murder these two players where they stood. Town speaker being a veteran, just utterly decimated them. Just massively decimated them. They didn't kill them right then and there. I had all the players make their death saves. The drow failed all of his. The doppelganger actually turned into a doppelganger in the fight to intimidate people. Who I thought she was going to intimidate them and run away and like shapeshift and hide. Decided to basically shapeshift, intimidate them, and then attack them more. So I just gave her advantage on everything because, oh my god, you just became a human and now you're an 8 foot tall blue man.
Right.
What's going on here? She passed all of her saves and she was imprisoned. And when the morning came, the other players basically in a bar the entire time. The town guard showed up and said, "Hey, an incident has happened with your other comrades. You've been asked to leave town and never return." And they're like, "Well, what happened?" They try to do some investigation. It's not working. The town guard are very serious. It's time for you guys to leave. And they're like, "Why? What happened?" It's like, "Can't help." And the guy did a perception or persuasion. It's like, "Yeah, one of your friends decided to attack the town speaker. We do not know why. He has been executed. His body has been disposed of in the lake already. Your other
Actually, no.
compatriot, your other compatriot is a doppelganger. And as we are with all doppelgangers, they have been imprisoned and will be executed in a month's time." And they were like, "Okay, so yeah, we're gonna leave now." They left town, and now they're going up to the place that has like the moose. So it was really good, and I let the player resurrect the player that got imprisoned at half cost because they weren't dead, but they were imprisoned and gonna be killed. So she was resurrected, and I said, "Hey, none of you guys know she's a doppelganger, even though you didn't know that player essentially died and resurrected. So we're back to square one with them." As Ale is kind of with you like that.
Yeah.
And the other player's like, "I ain't bringing this guy back. I'm making a whole new one." I'm like, "All right, you do you, buddy."
I mean,
And
honestly, I would not want to play a character that had already died. Also, even if it's Adventure League that lets you, yeah.
yeah,
If you go through the process and pay for the resurrection and all, sure, but otherwise,
I will say it's like it felt like a very, if to me it felt like a great horror film. It's like, hey, we did something good, but there was just sinister evil that was involved in it. We don't know what it is. And it's like a Twilight Zone or the Encounters episode where like the heroes were successful, but the evil ultimately won out.
yep,
And they decide to go down fighting, even if it meant their death. They decided to go down fighting. So I find that very admirable. And the player that doing that and dying on his laurels, that's
yep,
perfect.
yeah.
So
When
props
my
to him for that.
when my players went through that, the similar things happened. Like the townspeaker did ended up getting taken over, but it was afterwards. Like the
Yeah.
players were not there when it happened. It's been a while since I ran this. I'm trying to remember
When
all
it
the details. But the
basically
players,
what happens is if you convince the kobolds not to basically talk to the town speaker, and he goes there to the mine by himself to talk to them, he gets possessed.
well, I don't think he went to the mine. I think the kobold came back to town and possessed him in town.
Yeah.
Uh, but my players were not there when it happened, and there were people who saw that the town speaker left, packed up, and walked out of town. My players never found him again. Like that was pretty much the end of it. The town speaker got taken over, and then that thing just wanders off into the fucking wilderness, and causes havoc or does whatever it's gonna do.
Mine is staying there. It's in the town speaker. It's in charge of the town now, and it's in this nice big half orc body. He ain't gonna die anytime soon.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, it was great. It was amazing. I loved how it happened and loved how it turned out.
See, we
And
could have done 2 episodes on this, man. We're almost
no,
we're close to 2 hours.
do you have a topic then? Want to bring it to 2 hours?
No, I'm good.
All right, great, awesome. Thank you guys for listening to our extra long episode. I appreciate you standing by.
Yeah, he had so much he had to get off his chest.
I did. I really did. It was so much. Anyways, I do have a quest for everybody. I do need everyone that listens to this podcast to tell a friend about our podcast who's into D&D and who would like to listen to us, and get them to listen to one of our episodes. Maybe not starting with this episode since it's 2 hours long, but last episode, that was a good one. Have to listen to that one.
Last episode was a good one. It was fun.
Yeah. So that'll be it for us today, guys. Thank you for coming out and joining us. Craig, I see you. And by the way, Jay, I just want you to know is that I interviewed a new potential replacement for Craig. Tabaxi named Little Black Rain Cloud. Heavy metal cat, basically. It's amazing. She'll do a great. We'll just have to teach her common, like professional common, but
I mean, hey, it's not like Craig actually talks.
Yeah, well, we'll figure it out. All right, bye, Craig. Bye, everybody.
Bye, Craig. Bye, guys.
So long. The grumpiness has been your friend. Now go and spread anger through D&D. No, don't do that. Be happy, be friendly, be awesome, but maintain the boiling hate that inside your heart. I don't know, buddy. I'm rambling at this point. Shut me up and end this podcast.